your sales success. It's Dr. Nancy Zare, and this is Planets and Profit, Business Astrology for Entrepreneurs.
Hi there, I'm Dr. Deb Peretz, and I'm delighted that you've joined me for another episode of Planets and Profits. My guest today is Dr. Nancy Zare. Nancy is a psychologist and strategist, and she works with entrepreneurs who feel anxious about sales conversations. She helps them feel comfortable and poised so they can converse with confidence and get new business. She's the author of several books, including Compelling Selling, and an international bestseller, Words That Sell with Style. The classic signature for a psychologist or therapist is the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio doesn't like hidden things unless it's their own hidden things. They'll do anything to ferret out the truth, digging into what other people try to hide. That's the reason Scorpios also make great detectives. So there's no surprise to find that Nancy has Scorpio on her midheaven, the traditional marker for profession and career. Hi, Nancy. Thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure, Deb. I can't wait to get started.
Wonderful. Then I'd want to start by asking you a little bit about your journey to your present business. How did you become the sales psychologist?
That is a great question because I never thought I'd be standing where I am today. First of all, as a child, I wanted to have nothing to do with sales. I thought it was manipulative, slimy, that used car sales stereotype. That wasn't for me. I was all about service and helping people and making the world a better place. However, I was born a psychologist, and I say that not just tongue-in-cheek. There's some truth to it, because at a very young age, I heard my parents, they had a very stormy marital relationship, cupboards banging, glasses breaking, loud voices. It was a very tense situation in the household, and yet I responded to it by wanting to help them. And at age 10, I actually saw a program, Father Knows Best, in which he helped 3 quarreling children settle their differences. And I decided I would try his technique. And I asked my parents, and here's the strange part, Deb, they consented, which when you think about it now from an adult point of view, was remarkable that these 2 people thought that their daughter could actually do something of value when they had been obviously having difficulties for many, many years.
Nancy has a lot of Scorpio influence in her chart. I spoke earlier of her midheaven being in Scorpio. The midheaven is one of 4 of the most important placements in the birth chart. The 4 angles. This is where infinite spirit comes down into our 3-dimensional human existence. While all planets are important in a birth chart, the sun and the moon are the weightiest of them all. And I know technically the sun and moon are not planets, but in astrology it does make it simpler just to call them planets. So getting back to Scorpio, Nancy has her moon there. Now the moon represents our emotions. It also symbolizes the mother, the caregiving parental figure, or the nurturing archetype. And it's in her 8th house, which is the house aligned with Scorpio, and its ruler Pluto. And it's the house of sex, death, and anything taboo, among other things. I like to simplify it and just call it the house of anything edgy. The thought of a child growing up in a tense household with parents in a stormy relationship, that's edgy territory. So the picture of Nancy the child with her Scorpio moon taking on the role of therapist for those who are supposed to be nurturing her, it's a great example of Scorpio moon in the 8th house.
At any rate, I was successful enough that they stayed together until after I graduated college. So I started practicing psychology without a license. The sales part came later, and that is when I was selected to participate in the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism in study about how to organize employee assistance programs in the workplace. And when I graduated, I received an offer to do this work for a hospital, and I accepted that position, which meant that I had to sell. And I knew nothing about sales. However, I went back to school, not to get a degree, to the library to learn about selling, where I came across a book called The Platinum Rule. Now, Deb, you're familiar with the Golden Rule, right?
Yes.
Treat others the way I want to be treated. Well, the Platinum Rule takes it one step further. Treat others the way they want to be treated. And that's so aligned with my values and my point of view. And I took that to heart. And when I put it into practice, I was able to quadruple sales in 90 days. And I've
Wow.
gone on to create a system called a likability. That's like with an A in front of it, a likability. And that system is all about treating the prospect the way the prospect wants to be treated. And when you do that, when you ask their permission and you have a friendly, warm communication, you make sales.
I love it. So you found a way to combine your passion for psychology with this newfound interest in sales. But what were you doing before that? Because if I'm not mistaken, we share something in our background. You spent a little time in academia, right?
I spent actually 2 stints in academia. I've been tenured at 2 different universities. And as you know, Deb, at some point you have to go up or out, meaning you have to apply for tenure or you will be left, be asked to resign. And so I went up for tenure, not because I intended to stay forever, but because I wasn't ready yet to leave. And so, yes, I've been in academia a couple of times teaching, once in a school of social work and the other time in a human service program.
And what about that's a big jump, similar to my own. Any other careers beforehand, or is that enough?
Oh, do you want to know about my going door to door and selling peanuts in the Kiwanis? I mean, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, I've had many part-time jobs, including the fact that I was a secretary and learned to type 80 words a minute, which of course has come in very handy, etc. So, yeah,
Yeah, one of the most valuable things I learned in high school was typing. um,
yeah.
so then, let me ask you this: you talked about how you're a born psychologist. You started practicing at the tender age of 10, I think. What other aspects of your personality do you feel give you strengths with your current business?
What a great question. I haven't really, pondered all those things because there are so many things that, of course, threads that come together that have brought me to where I am today. I mean, certainly the fact that I have a heart of service and I want to help others, and that, like I said, is something that was instilled in me at a very young age. I mean, I don't remember not wanting to help others, to be of service, to render whatever I could to make another person's life easier and better. I know that my maternal grandmother passed away when I was around 5, 6 years old from cancer. In those days, it was called the Big C. People didn't even use the word cancer. And I thought I was going to become a medical doctor and find the cure for cancer because this was a beloved person in my life. I also have to admit that there's been this entrepreneurial streak in me that, again, from an early age, I laughed about selling peanuts for the Kiwanis, but I did to raise money again for the American Cancer Society. I also sold pot holders that I made and other kinds of things that I did. So I had an entrepreneurial streak. Uh, Back in elementary school, I started a girls' club because I felt that the girls didn't have a recreation. The boys after school, they had baseball or something like that they could go to, but the girls had nothing like that back when I was growing up. So there's always been that part in me that has noticed perhaps a gap or a lack of something, and then thought to myself, hey, just jump in and make it happen.
I love it. I think that's interesting because you opened the conversation talking about how you didn't like sales, and there's that big contradiction, and I think I can identify because I also that entrepreneurial spirit was strong in me. I had ideas of what I wanted to do, but again, that the idea of being dependent on sales was a real turnoff. So I think that's funny how you ended up really embracing and making a business out of that. Let me ask the opposite question then. What aspects of your personality are obstacles in your current business? And what I mean is, what are some of the things that you need to get out of your comfort zone to do some of these regular aspects of your business?
I rolled my eyes because getting out of your comfort zone is what being an entrepreneur is all about. Haven't you figured that out?
Yes, good point.
And so, getting out of my comfort zone happens daily. And so, what is out of my comfort zone? I have to admit, even selling is out of my comfort zone. I'd much rather deliver services than market and sell those services. In fact, that's exactly what I tell my clients, because my ideal client is the person who has subject matter expertise. They're really, they've got so many gifts to offer people. They have educated and trained themselves with particular skills, and yet they find that in order to practice those very skills that bring them joy, they have to do something that they don't like to do, and that is to sell. And, in fact, some of my best clients hate to sell. And I guess I fall into that boat too. It's not that I hate to sell, because I really do enjoy interacting and being with people. But materialism is not high on my list. I want to have a comfortable life, but I'm not looking to have an affluent life. And so, it's like I want to just be of service. Service is like absolutely the blood that runs through my veins. What can I do to help others? And I do it without being asked. So, getting out of my comfort zone, it's the marketing. It's following systems and structures, especially when people tell me that this is what worked for them. And I want success, and yet I don't like following those rules. And I don't like restrictions. I want freedom.
I don't like following those rules. I don't like restrictions. I want freedom. When I hear words like these, I think immediately of Uranus and the planet and Aquarius. Uranus is the planet that defies the rules, defies convention. It demands freedom to be its unique self at all costs. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and so it's the sign of the free thinker who refuses to conform. Nancy has Aquarius Rising, again, one of the four angles, the four most important parts of the birth chart. The rising sign represents how we show up in the world. So it makes sense that she desires freedom and doesn't want to play by the rules unless she agrees with them. She also has the planet Uranus in Gemini. If I had to pick a sign of the zodiac to represent marketing, it would be Gemini, which is all about communication, messaging. So having the freedom-loving planet in the sign of marketing and messaging is really quite aligned with what she was just saying about not liking to follow the rules when it comes to marketing.
You know, these are challenges for me.
Uh,
Have I given you enough of a list at this point?
yes, absolutely. Let me narrow it down a bit then and say, could you share what's one challenge that right now you're grappling with in your business?
So it's probably, I have a mind that thinks of 100 things that could be done. And again, because I want to serve others and go forward that way. But the technology of actually implementing all this stuff and following a system and having all the dots, put there in place and the T's crossed and all that, that is a challenge. And even when I work with a virtual assistant to help me, I still need to do the instruction. I still need to develop materials. I can't just delegate. So I have found it very hard to, quote, automate my business or make it work in a way where I don't have to be quite so hands-on.
Yeah, that's something I can identify with too. So what
We're cut from the same cloth,
we
Deb.
seem to be, the more I get to know you, the more we seem to have in common.
And are we astrologically aligned too?
Well, when I jump back in with the Astro Insights, we'll see. But I can
Okay.
definitely feel some very strong energies that we do have in
Yeah.
alignment. Let me ask about your superpower. What is your business superpower?
The first one that came to my mind is that I have the ability to simplify complex information. I have an amazing ability to take in lots of information, to thoroughly understand it, and then to make it so simple so that I can communicate and pass it on to someone else. I've had a lot of opportunities to do so at the college level as a teacher, and I taught the dreaded research class, which, if anybody is in the social services, you know that you don't want to do research, but I wanted to make it fun, enjoyable. And again, what's the essence of research that you need in order to be more successful? So I'd have to say that's one of my big superpowers.
Yeah, that's definitely something teachers bring in with them to business. It's surprising how many entrepreneurs I've met that are former teachers. And of course, I am one of them. How would your clients describe you? Like, give me the five top adjectives or terms they would use if I were to survey a group of your past clients.
I'm sure that one of the words has to do with being bright, intellectually, astute, because I am. I'm sure they would mention something about energy, enthusiasm, passion. Certainly, they would say caring and, serving others, because that comes through. I know that's only three, but those are probably the top of the list.
Okay, great. And can you share a story um, from your experience in your business that was just made you feel, it's like, wow, I love what I do. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, share a high from your.
Yeah, yeah. This is one that I actually share quite often, and I use it when I present. And it's a story about a client named June who was prospecting online, and she met someone. They hit it off so much so that she was asked to send a proposal, which she did, and then she got ghosted. And by the way, I never heard the word ghosted before until she told me what that was. So for those listeners who may not know, ghosted means that the person's gives you the silent treatment and you never hear from them again. And so she had poked, meaning she had sent more messages, but still the person didn't respond. And when we were on our coaching call, she explained the situation to me, and I was able to identify that her sales style did not match the buyer's buying style. And because of that mismatch, this is probably the reason why there was no communication. And so I suggested that right there during our coaching call, she send a different text message in which she sent it using the buyer's style, the words that the buyer would use. And within 5 minutes, we're still on the coaching call, she got texted back and their relationship was back on track, and later went on, for her to secure a new business. So I always enjoy that story because it illustrates that when you, again, treat people the way they want to be treated and you adjust your communication to match the other person's style, the results are phenomenal.
We've had this conversation before where I recognize what you're doing because it's similar in some ways to astrology, where, using the energies of some of the zodiacs, we we can learn to communicate better with people of different signs that may not be a natural fit for who we are. So I love that. What is one of your goals for the coming year? What's one thing you'd really like to accomplish?
So the big goal that I'm working towards currently is I have a 3-day intensive boot camp that I am planning for the end of April. And so that is a huge goal. And then I hope to repeat a boot camp again in October. So just the fact that I am going to somehow pull all the working parts and make them go together and culminate in a successful boot camp, I mean, that is a huge goal right now. I'd also say a second goal, of which I'm 1/3 of the way through, is that I have a 3-book trilogy that I'm working on, and book number 1 is totally written. Book number 2 has begun. Book number 3 is still an inspiration and an idea.
Wow, that's great. Those are ambitious goals for the coming year. I love it. If listeners want to learn more about you, where should they go? And I will include any links in the show notes and description below.
Well, great. Obviously, my website is a great place to go, rapportbuilders.com. And the last word builders ends in a Z for Zare. So rapportbuilders.com, or you'll find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I welcome, people. I even have a YouTube channel, by the way.
That's great. That's great. And can people learn more about your upcoming boot camp on your website?
I would recommend that they go to rapportbuilders.com/quiz2, the number 2, and take the free quiz, What's My Biggest Selling Mistake? And when you do that, not only will you be gifted with a copy of Compelling Selling, which was released in 2020, but you'll also be on the email list and hear about a training, how buyers buy, as well as the boot camp, Conversational Soft Selling. So that's a great way to begin our relationship. Take the quiz. What's my biggest selling mistake?
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Nancy, for being here today and sharing your story with the listeners.
Oh, so much fun. Thanks, Deb, for having me.
I'd like to thank Dr. Nancy Zare once again for joining the podcast. Go check out the quiz and find out what your biggest selling mistake is, and get your free copy of Compelling Selling. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment right now to subscribe, rate, and review, and share it with your friends. This will help get the word out about planets and profits. Thank you for spending your precious time with me today, and I hope to see you next episode.